After months of rehab, I was, at home and doing vocational rehab, learning to go back to work. I was back at work for 2 months,
Mhm.
June, July, and then I was found unconscious in my flat by my mom. I had a shunt that was from my brain from the initial brain hemorrhage that blocked, leading to hydrocephalus or water on the brain. It led to emergency brain surgery, a hospital ride, an ambulance ride to the hospital. And I woke up in the hospital bed hearing the noise of the heart rate monitor going off, the cables dripping and feeding me information and medicine. And I'm just looking around like, what happened? What happened? And they told me, hey, Dan, you had a second surgery. You had a second emergency brain surgery. I'm like, all my progress was washed away. Yeah, but we got the blockage. You're safe now. I'm like, okay, good. But like all that work up until that point was gone in an instant. And I had
Right.
worked my tail off to get back to work. I'd been back at work for 2 months. And this happened, right?
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Daniel McQueen here. He is a motivational speaker, and he's got quite the story to tell. Daniel, I guess, should we start with the optometrist trip?
Yeah, Kyle, that sounds good. So this all happened in London, England, so jolly old in 2014. I was having these headaches that were getting pretty debilitating, and my vision would sometimes go spotty or just go black for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I went to A&E, which is accident and emergency, twice. Now they thought it was vertigo and they sent me home. Well, they told me to get my eyes checked in an optometrist should the headaches continue. Sure enough, the headaches continued. I went to the optometrist appointment. He stopped it midway through the exam. Like we got to stop this right now. Give me a sealed envelope. And he told me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Well, sort of. I went home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child and a bite to eat as I figured I'd be in for a bit of weight and a phone charger. But then I went to Moorfields Hospital. They ran the same test and escalated me to Charing Cross Hospital. And it turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst. It turns out I needed emergency brain surgery. It turns out my life was about to change entirely. So my mom was in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014, when I was on the operating table. Something went wrong and I had a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. They think the cyst burst when they operated.
Oh, no.
Mom lands and finds I was in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks, but was in and out of consciousness for months after that. It was really dicey, touch and go. When all was said and done, I was learning how to walk, talk, and smile again. So that was my reality in 2014, and I've been kind of building back up ever since.
And you had two surgeries?
Yeah, so I had so that all happened. I was left me learning to walk, talk, and smile again, built back up. Learned to walk in Tune Broadway. I'll share that story if you don't mind briefly, Kyle. Is that okay for
Sure,
you?
go for it, man.
So learn to walk in Tune Broadway was quite a trial. Tune Broadway is in South London, which is that's what they call up and coming, which means a bit dodgy, a bit think sirens, drugs, gangs, dirty, grimy, busy. It's a full-on visceral experience. I'm walking with a cane and an eye patch. I'm Bambi on ice out there. I turn the corner on Tune Broadway, immediately get slammed into by someone.
Oh, no.
Stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. I'm walking around. Someone's been stabbed on the sidewalk. I'm like, this is a pretty wild place to learn to walk.
God,
After a
man.
few days of this, I'm thinking, this place sucks to walk, man. Can't they see I'm trying to walk here? Can't they see I'm trying here? And then my perspective shifted. Maybe this isn't the worst place to learn to walk in the world. Maybe this is the best place. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. No, Tune Broadway didn't change, right? But it went from the worst to the best in my mind, and my mood reflected that. What are you looking at in your life that could be the worst that maybe is the best? Can you shift that perspective just a little bit? So that's an example of how I shifted my perspective and got back to walking. After months of rehab, I was, at home and doing vocational rehab, learning to go back to work. I was back at work for 2 months, June, July, And then I was found unconscious in my flat by my mom. I had a shunt that was from my brain from the initial brain hemorrhage that blocked, leading to hydrocephalus, or water on the brain. It led to emergency brain surgery, a hospital ride, an ambulance ride out to the hospital. And I woke up in the hospital bed hearing the noise of the heart rate monitor going off, the cables dripping and feeding me information and medicine. And I'm just looking around like, what happened? What happened? And they told me, hey, Dan, you had a second surgery. You had a second emergency brain surgery. I'm like, all my progress was washed away. Yeah, but we got the blockage. You're safe now. I'm like, okay, good. But like, all that work up until that point was gone in an instant. And I had
Right.
worked my tail off to get back to work. I'd been back to work for 2 months and this happened, right?
Right.
And I was forced to kind of look at this and think, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, right? A famous Epictetus quote. And I realized that like, it's not what this is, it's what I think about that matters. And so I really got to work and going myself and building up my mental fortitude and thinking about like, how can I get back to work? And I call work chop wood, carry water, the process. So anytime I waver on stuff, just chop wood, carry water, get back to work, don't worry about this, get back to exercise, meditation, building up your cognitive skills, your brain functioning skills. I played Tetris on the tube to work to try and build my mental brain back up. I was told that Tetris would help form new pathways in my brain. The way a brain hemorrhage was described to me is your brain is like a highway. There's an issue on the fast highways, you have to take the back roads. You're just slow at first, you're not sure where to go. Over time, they speed up as you begin to the route. Turn left after the stop sign, after the bend. I was all in on building myself back up after the second setback, which was, to be honest, Kyle, much lower than the first setback. The first setback was devastating, no doubt, but the second setback was like, it was a gut punch, man. Like all that progress was washed away overnight, and like you'd done the rehab in the hospital, so you couldn't go back to in-person rehab.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, we were able to get some rehab help afterwards, but from my help, my GP, Jens Foles, big shout out to Jens Foles. But it was a lot of work and a lot of help to get back to where I'm at today, Kyle.
It's incredible that you had that kind of mindset, because most people would be pretty much pissed at the world. Um, I I went through a rehab when I had back surgery and when I gotten shot, but nothing like what you've gone through. And it was, I mean, there was times that I was in so much pain, I was just ready to give up altogether. I mean, what makes you change your mindset like that? Is just the gratitude of being alive? Is it faith? I mean, what is it?
It's a good question, Kyle. I think like really, I'm a stubborn son of a bitch at times. Like I'm not going out like this. Like it's like you didn't get me with the shot. You better, if you're gonna shoot me, shoot to kill, man.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get me with this, and it's like, and then I'm building back up, and then I just have this fire inside me to just show you what I can do. I'm gonna show you how great I can be. And I had friends come out to visit me in the hospital, and that was a big motivation for me because I would see them and be like, I'd be in a wheelchair. They'd go off to Scotland for a few weeks, they come back, and I'd be walking, like on a Zimmer frame, but I'd be walking a little bit. I'm like, I want to show them that I'm getting better. I'm trying here. I used to really pride myself on not trying too hard in life. Things came easy to me, or at least I made them appear so. After the brain injury, that went out the window. I would never let myself not succeed because of lack of effort, ever. I'm going to bust my ass and make this happen. If I fail, it's because I'm not good enough or not strong enough to do it, but I'm going to bust my ass to prove that I can do it. And I really wanted to do it to prove people right that banked on me and prove people wrong that doubted me. And that's what got me up initially. I call that 0 to 1. And that's that proving you wrong attitude that's so feisty and passionate and driven and dark. I've now transitioned that more to helping you, lending a hand, service. I want to share the story and in my inside perspective to help people that are going through a difficult time. Because maybe you don't have the help that I had. Maybe you don't have the support system that I had. And if you don't, man, you're screwed, man. It's tough. It's not easy to do any of this stuff, to walk in, talk in, smile again. It's not easy to do, but it's very simple. What I mean by this is like when you decide that I'm going to start walking again, it's like, well, No, I'm a walker. I do this. I'm going to try this out. And when you make that choice, you just deconstruct it and you just focus on the next day. What can I do the next day to make myself better? Well, I can get in the wheelchair in 40 minutes, not 45. The next day, 35 minutes, not 40. And just slowly, incrementally increasing these improvements and building yourself back up. But like, it's not to say it's easy to do this stuff, but like once you get your mind right, like you want to go right, then you just go right. When you make a choice, stick with the choice.
Do you still have those moments though, where you just kind of mad at everything?
Yeah, I'm not like a saint. I get pissed. Like I lost my job this past summer.
Mm.
Been there for 9.5 years, and I got let go in a restructuring in Hootsuite. Wrong side of a spreadsheet. 400 people lost their job. I was one of them. I gave myself an afternoon to decide I wanted to be a speaker the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a few weeks to recover from it totally mentally and emotionally, but like I made that choice that afternoon, like, hey, I'm going to be a speaker. And to be a speaker tomorrow, I got to get a computer today. Gave myself a lunch, had a few margaritas. You know, screw it, we're going to go buy a new computer today and do that. And like, that's not to say that I'm like without pity and down moments. Like, I have those moments too, but like, I just realized through trial and error that like accepting something is a fast way to resolve it. The first setback I had took me a month. The second setback took me a week. This job loss this summer took me an afternoon. Mind you, it took me like the tailwind of this was a bit longer than a week, or a day. But like I made the choice that I'm going to make this like a catalyst to rally around at that moment and bought a computer that day. The faster you can get to acceptance, the better off you can be. Now it's not easy to do because sometimes accepting is really tough because it's not fair it happened to you. It's not fair. You're right. But you got to ask yourself this question: and what? And what do you expect to have happen now? It's not fair this happened. Okay, and this stuff always happens to me. Why didn't it happen in the gym? He didn't do anything like this. And you just burn yourself out. Like it's no one cares, man. You're not that special. It's a tough thing to hear from people, but like life doesn't happen for you, it happens to you. Or not to you, it happens for you.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Is that right? Did I say that right? It happens for you, not to you. There you go. Yeah. So like you get the chance to do this. And if you can accept things faster, you can move forward with it because acceptance is the game. The faster you can get to acceptance, the faster you can be improving in life. That's the one thing I recommend your listeners to do is just like, you know what? It's not fair. You're right. But what do you expect to have happen? Wishing it didn't happen is not an adequate way to resolve it.
Well, I admire the fact that you took this challenge and you made something out of it to help other people. You know, I don't want to make this about myself whatsoever, but you know, I go through those times and I really, really love helping people. Even though I felt like I was crapped on most of my life, I still feel this urge to help others. And then I go through those moments like the last couple of weeks. You know, I have a spinal disease and the pain gets so bad. Sometimes I wished I'd go to sleep and just not wake up. But then I get a message or something from someone saying, thank you for bringing on this guest or for saying these words. It really helped me. And that really motivates you to continue to do that work. Well, when you got into speaking, was that like almost like rehab all over again, trying to get up there and do what you do?
Yeah. So first of all, Kyle, that sounds tough, man. I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like a struggle, and that's not easy, and that's not fun at all. So I appreciate that you telling me that, man. Thank you. The speaking business kind of came about because I used to speak at my outpatient work at the Wolfson. I go in and speak with old rehab people or new rehab groups after I got let go, anywhere from like 6 to 12 people in person, maybe once a quarter. And I kind of built this talk up around that. And then I kind of gave the talk to Hootsuite last year. Got such good response from this that like I figured there's something here, man. There's something with this talk that I've got, this perspective I've got, because I'm pretty raw, pretty honest. I'm not covering the difficult stuff, and I'm kind of telling it how it is. Like, hey, man, this sucks. Like, this is not easy to do, but it's like the motivation didn't come from this happy, holistic place. It came from this, like, hey, man, you can't do this. Jog on. I'm going to show you I can do this. And that's some fire inside you that really helps me to get going. Like, 0 to 1 for me is like, hey, bud, I don't think I can do this. F off. Now I'm trying to transition that more to service. But I had to identify that in myself and share that out because, like, if people think it only comes from a happy place, hey, man, if something hits you in life and you think, hey, if I'm just happy and cheerful, like, I'm going to get back better. It's like, that's not how it is, man. That's not real.
For
I
sure.
got to where I'm at because I was like, hey, man, you don't think I can do this? Watch me. And now I'm trying to transition that because I want to move away from that hateful, spiteful place because I don't know. Do you ever watch that Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan?
No, I haven't seen it.
All right, well, I'll spare you that then. But he's a spiteful guy.
Really?
I'm good at that. But like, I don't want to be that in life. I don't want to be this angry, bitter guy in life. I want to kind of uh, be happy and enjoy my life and just call my shot. So it's like I got to be honest with how I got there, right? I've forgotten your question entirely, Kyle. I'm sorry.
That's all right, man. Well, I mean, for me, I'm happy because I have a wonderful family. I couldn't ask for a better wife. My kids, I don't know what I'd do without my kids or my grandkids. And I have some great friends. I really do. And for that, that's my happy part of my family. I mean, of my life, excuse me. And then being able to help others, that makes me happy. But I'll tell you, those times when you go through the pain, when you can't move, you get so frustrated. And then when you're out in public, it'll either I use my cane, or if we're doing like a lot of walking, I have to use my wheelchair. And you either get those people that feel sorry for you, or the people that just don't ignore you altogether. And it's like, look, can we get a happy medium here? Just treat me like a regular human being. Okay, so I can't get up and walk and run like you can. So what? I'm still a human,
Yeah, well,
right?
it's I used to give this used to be interviewed by these new medical doctors in the UK in London. And
Mm-hmm.
in London, you can go to med school when you're 18. So these kids are like this. They're 18-year-old kids come to my house interviewing me about my experience in the medical space.
Mm-hmm.
And they're asking me like, Dan, what should we know as new doctors? And I go, you need to treat a patient as a person first and a patient second. That's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing I can tell you because if you treat someone as a patient first, hey man, like you don't care about me. I'm number to you. Like connect with me as a person first, and then you can tell me the worst news in the world. But if you tell me some news is like, oh, this is just a patient information, it's like, hey man, I'm a real person. Like that news wasn't the best news to tell me. And you treat me like I should just take it like I should take it, but I'm a person, man, first. And that's the
Exactly.
message I hammered home with them. It was like a person first, a patient second. And they were like, she was so profound. She's like, oh damn, thank you for telling me this because I was starting to wonder if I should treat that way or view that way. I'm like, no, it's always person first, man. Like that's not fair when someone's looking at you or judging you. Like that's that two for the road attitude, man. Like you don't think I can do this? Watch me, bro. Like that fires me up, man. But it's also very hurtful. Like I used to wear an eye patch and a cane all the time in London, and people make comments with the cane or the eye patch, and you're like, all right, man. Like you try not to let it bother you too much, but like they kind of grate on you a little bit. And I stopped wearing the eye patch, not because of the comments, but because the periphery vision was quite difficult to have. But every one of those comments, man, like put in the backpack, like, cool, I can't do this. Cool, 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 cool. It's like you stockpile that stuff and use it as fuel to get going, which I think is I don't know if it's healthy, but it's certainly motivating.
If somebody's just being rude and making comments, like why? You know, why you have to do that? You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of these people that go out and tell everybody, oh, well, I have this disease and, feel sorry for me and all this stuff. No, of course not. I only tell people on here because I know there's somebody else out there that's going through something similar, and let them know, hey, there, you can make it. You can make it. But these, you got so many people out here that, I mean, they get upset because you don't call them the right pronoun, and they think the whole world's falling down on top of them. It's like, dude, look what you've been through, you know? but that's not a problem. This what you've gone through. That was adversity to get over, and you're not sitting here whining about it.
Well, there's one thing I'd say to that, Kyle, and that's the hardest thing you've ever been through is the hardest thing you've ever been through.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that could be being teased, or it could be having 2 brain surgeries in London, learning to walk, talk, and smile again. Like it's a big spectrum of like the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you. But I can't make you understand what it's like to be in these situations unless you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to know that. But
Exactly.
the perspective is so key for this, right? And I think perspective is the actual game. How you view something is everything. Like another hack I want to share with you and your audience, Kyle, is called icebreakers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I came up with in London to learn how to walk there, right? London's quite a busy city. It's not a New York vibe, but it's quite busy. It's busiest city in Europe for sure. Icebreakers are like, think about an icebreaker breaking through the ice in the Arctic, right?
Right.
So you want to find someone go in your direction and you follow behind them, let them break the ice for you. So you want to walk behind like a buggy, a push car, a couple, let them break the ice for you and you walk in their wake. And before you know it, you're not dealing with that oncoming traffic, that adversity. A lot of my hacks are designed to make it less, to turn down the suck, I call it. When you had a brain injury, like your fatigue levels are quite high. You get quite tired easily. And by taking these little drafting off these people walking through an alleyway or a busy street, you can reduce the strain you face. But it's gamification at its finest. Like have fun with life. Life's about having fun, play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, draft off these people, have an icebreaker. Like I'm trying to have stuff ways that you're gonna save my bandwidth and allow me better than yesterday. And that's why I think perspective is so key for this because it's not ideal to do this. Like walking into a room was the worst. No, it's the best. How you view it is everything. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it matters. And that's like that key point here. When people get all whiny about like stuff that's happened to them, it's just like, hey man, like maybe, or maybe you're just being soft. And like I don't want to ever compare myself and be like, hey, look what I've been through. Like, and I'm not whining about this stuff, but like when I share my experiences, because I want you to know it's coming from a place of like I've lived this experience and I know what's going on. Let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
these hacks matter.
Right.
Part of me is probably saying, hey, then look what I've been through, because it's like I got scars to prove it, baby. But like it's not that that's not the reason why. It's so you buy into me as a presenter and like, oh, he thinks that making his bed is a big thing in the morning. Why would you think that? Why would I listen to that? It's like, well, I had to relearn how to walk, talk, and smile again. And I found that making my bed helps me structure my day in a way that allows me to have regimen and rigor and discipline to allow me to achieve big things. Okay, well, you've been through some stuff, so it's like, I'll believe your hack now because you've been through some stuff. But it's like when I go listen to other people's stories, um, like, do you ever hear this guy, Paul DeGelder?
No.
He's a Navy clearance diver from Australia, and he got attacked clearing mine, or I don't know, something in Sydney Harbor. He got attacked by a bull shark, lost his arm and a leg.
Wow.
The same side, arm and a leg, right? Like cuffs to dying, almost died. And I listened to the story and riveted by the first time the shark attack. The first time I listened to it full time through. Every talk I've listened to since, I've always fast forwarded that part because I know what happened. I want to know when you wake up in that hospital bed, how did you structure your mind to be like, hey man, I've got no arm and no leg on the right side. How am I going to get up and back at 2 things after this? Because you can't control that happen to you. That happened, and that sucks. It's not fair it happened to you, right? But wishing it didn't happen, you're not resolving it. But how did you go about fixing this, right? And you started doing pull-ups. Keep my mind right. How am I going to do this? Like now he's a motivational speaker. He also hosts Shark Week on Discovery Channel.
Wow.
Like a smoking hot wife now. Like he's got like his life. He says is so much better now because of the shark attack. It's like that's cool, man. Because this adversity should have destroyed you. Should have killed you. You should have been dead. Guy should have
Mm-hmm.
been dead a number of times. Like I've had, I say like I've had a couple of chances. I probably had 4 or 5 chances. Like you should be dead, but I'm not. And now every adversity I face is like in the backpack of like, cool, I'm leveling up. Post-traumatic growth is what they call that. And that was a bit of a tangent there, Kyle, but it's the mindset, right? Like it's how you view it. It's not what it is, but the mindset is so important, is what I'm trying to get across.
Hey, I agree. I mean, what happened to me allowed me to retire early and to focus on the show and helping others. And it's opened up the doors for me to meet so many wonderful people, getting to work with veterans now. I mean, they called me to ask to help with a new project they got going on. If I had kept on my life the way it was, I don't think I'd be here right now doing what I'm doing. So I get you, man. It's opened up doors for me, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and it's not like you can, it's not really fair to say like, would you go, like I remember this question my friend asked me last summer. He goes, if you could, I was talking to him about like the brain injury. He goes, I've learned so much since the brain injury. If I could go back in time and undo the brain injury, would I lose all the knowledge I'd lost? I'd lose all the knowledge I gained from the brain injury. Would I do it? And I said, no, I wouldn't. That's not a fair question because I can't go back and undo the brain hemorrhage, right?
Mhm.
But what I'm trying to share with you is like the knowledge you gain from yourself and the world and your perspective is so valuable from this experience.
Yeah,
Don't dismiss that. Like that's big stuff, man. And you can't buy that. Well, you can if you book me to speak, but like, but you can't ever, you got to earn these lessons, right? I've earned these lessons with blood, sweat, and tears, man. And I
yeah,
give them to you because I want to help you. Like I've navigated this road and I'm going to tell you, don't go right there. It's a fake right. Go around the bend. I can map you back. This what really matters when you're down and out and like, counting your next one. Like it's not what you think. And like you think that this stuff matters and it's not what you think matters. Like relationships matter. The relationship you have
yeah,
with your family, like that stuff really matters. Like my family,
yep,
my brother, my friends in Vancouver. And now it's like I call the reason why I speak is this call, I call it the call. I feel called to speak about my experience because I don't want these lessons to be like left on the sidelines of life, Kyle. I want you to know, like, hey, getting up early, working out, making your bed, cold shower, meditating, that helps me get going my day. Maybe that helps you. I'm never gonna tell you what you should do because that pisses me off beyond anything else. You should do this. Like, hey man, you know my story, like jog on. But this
right.
worked for me, it might work for you, and this is my experience. Like, so I wake up, go to the gym. I wake up, make my bed, go to the gym, cold shower, I meditate, ramp up, start my day the same way every day. And I like put on my armor because I gotta armor up for the day and take on the difficulties. But like find a routine that serves you. Understand what those triggers and those pull points are for you and like just trust the process. Chop wood, carry water is what I call that.
Yeah,
Whenever I deviate from stuff like well, I'm a bit like flustered right now, chop wood, carry water, get to work. Don't worry about this peripheral crap. Like focus on the task at hand, chop wood, carry water.
yeah.
And that kind of keeps you on task. And I find it helpful. It may not work for you, but it's worked for me. And that's what I'd like to pass on to your listeners, Kyle.
Well, I know there's plenty of distractions out there, plenty of things that could veer you off the path, but it's important to stay on it. I was telling you earlier about how I'll get messages from time to time from people to say thank you. You brought so and so on, and they really inspired me to do this, or the all kinds of really great stories from people. Do you get messages like that, or people come up and tell you thank you? And what's been the best success story that you've gotten so far?
Yeah, so I gave a talk at my old employer last autumn, Hootsuite. This is the talk that actually made me pursue the speaking career as a full-time gig.
Hmm.
And the amount of comments I had about like, damn, the talk was so inspirational and raw, which was what I really wanted to hear, like the raw word, because that's I tried to polish it up and make it look presentable. But I didn't want to lose that raw element of like, hey man, this is rough and ready and like this is how it is. But I've got that one habit that I really stressed and said that it's a foundation habit for me is the making the bed.
Hmm.
I think I'm single-handedly responsible for like dozens of people now making their bed in the morning because I told them to do so. Which seems like a really stupid and trite thing to be like, hey man, I'm making you make your bed. I feel like a great success story. But the bed is a big symbol for like your life. The room is made. The room will look tidy, the bed is made. It's the first thing you accomplish in the day. The last thing you do in bed is last thing you do is getting to bed. It's a symbol for your life. Also, the cold showers is something I've been promoting of late. No, Dan, I can never go in the cold shower. And you try it one time, like, hey man, it's kind of good. You do a bit of a rush. I'm like, yeah, man, it's addicting, isn't it? I never can leave the shower now until I go cold. It seems like a stupid, simple thing, but like these stupid little things build up into a life worth of meaning and value. Like have fun, man. Life's about having fun. If you can't have fun, then I don't know. This whole thing's about having fun for me and like just enjoying myself, because you can be down and out and gloomy and miserable, or you can just have a good time. And like I want to have a good time. And these little games and hacks help allow me to do that. But the one that no doubt gets the most response is making your bed, Kyle. So that's one that I'm known for in the speaking circles today, which is kind of I don't know. I'll take it as a badge of honor, I guess. But it's if you've told me back when I was in high school, making your bed's what you'll be known for, I'm like, yeah, right, bud. I never made my bed growing up.
Has any individual ever just come up to you and said, "Hey, your speech has allowed me to do this," or anything along that line?
Yeah, for sure. I had a few people mention like, hey man, I was going through a tough time, and like your talk really kind of snapped me out of it, and just realized like focus on what I can control and attack that. Like my big part of my talk is control the controllables,
Mm-hmm.
right? Control the controllables. It's like a stoic way of approaching life. Like, can you influence it or control it? If yes, do that. If no, then punt it, man. But like, if you're going through a rough time, don't get spun out on what's going wrong in your life. Focus on what you can control and focus on that. So like exercise, cold shower, wake up early, meditation, organize yourself and just be religious with it. Like chop wood, carry water is what I call that. Just get to work. Anytime you deviate, chop wood, carry water. And that discipline helps you get on track. And those messages really mean a lot to me, because it feels like it's they'll kind of pull me aside like, hey man, like I was going through a really tough time there, but your talk really helped. It's like that feels like it's valuable. That feels like I've done something with my life that's worth it and meaningful. And like it's more than just a job or a hobby. It's like I'm making a difference here, which sounds woo-hoo a little bit, but like it means something to me and it means something to them, and I can see that in their eyes, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's going to be folks out there you help, and you'll never even know what their story is, but you keep that in mind to keep doing what you're doing. Is, hey, it's not so much about getting the praise; it's just knowing that someone out there is getting the message.
Yeah, it's big time, man. And I think it's what drives me to do this talk, the speaking gig now is sharing this message in this not prescriptive, but like just sharing my blueprint of what I did. If it works for you, great. If not, no stress, man, because it's not for everyone. That's for sure. But if I can tell you how to be a bit better than yesterday is what I go for, then I'll do that. And I want to leave a legacy of helping, of showing a way forward, of being light and jovial and fun. And because life isn't all fun, as we all know, like it's not fun. But
It's
if
not.
you can find fun and dark humor in a lot of stuff. Like my humor is very dark and twisted, and like it's very twisted because you got to kind of laugh at stuff. You're like, this is ridiculous. Look at me right now. I'm in this one. I remember being in the hospital and Charing Cross, and overnight would be a wild place. The Charing Cross Hospital, be in this one big area room with like this people crying and screaming, and you got pills, and then just kind of coming around and patrolling and checking up on you and making sure you're okay. I'm like, this is a wild situation here. Like, this is when in my life am I ever, hopefully never again, am I ever going to come back to this spot? This is a wild situation. Can you watch this now? I remember telling my friend Andrew, like, Andrew, this place is a pretty wild spot at night, man. Like, there's people screaming and crying, and people, you got to take your
Yeah.
medication. And I remember one time I hid my medication from my nurse, and I didn't want to take it. I'm like, you know what? I've had enough. I don't need this crap anymore. I'm done with it. Because it's like 30 pills or whatever. I hid it under my bed. And she wakes me up and she goes, you didn't take your pills. You didn't take your pills. And then some other emergency went off, and she went off to go deal with that. And I sheepishly took them later than I should have. But it's just these memories are kind of wild. And you just got to kind of look at it as like, hey, man, this is my experience right now. but it's mine, and I can make the most of it, or it can be the worst, it can be the best. And like that's kind of the through line I want to get through to your audience, is just like it's how you look at it that matters, not what it is. But turn down the suck, I say, and have some good times.
If you don't mind, I'll share a little story about my grandpa. My
Please.
grand my grandfather had he'd worked out at the Exxon chemical plant, and him and another guy were up in a cherry picker. Anyway, the line snapped that was holding him up, and they fell quite a ways, and ended up he had messed up his back. I mean, he broke his spine, and he couldn't walk and all these other things. Like, he just had all kinds of problems. I don't want to go through all of them, but the main one was that, you know, his legs weren't working anymore. But he was stubborn like you. He was determined he was going to walk again, and so he did. He walked, but he stumbled a lot when he walked. And he was going to an appointment, and my grandmother was walking behind him, and you know, here he's stumbling down the hall, and this lady came up and asked my grandma, she says, is he drunk? And my grandpa heard it, you know, and some people get pissed off, but grandpa said, well, I wished I was, I'd get over this in the morning. It's the way you look at it, right?
The way you look at it, for sure. Well, it's like the way they got me to talk. So that when I got out of the coma, I had a breathing tube removed and I couldn't talk for a few weeks.
Mm.
The way they got me to talk was she took me down to the park, like the hospital public area, and she sit me in front of these kids across the park, and she goes, Dan, those kids across there, they don't think you're good enough to talk. Dan, they don't think you can talk. You're not good enough to talk, they think. And I just like, she found out what motivated me, and I just hammered that. And I was just like, bah! Yelling profanities across I found my voice, needless to say, and I told them a thing or two about my talking abilities. But like, there's something as simple as that. Just when you find out what works, go for it. But like that's like a light, jovial moment that you can have now. But like, if you don't view it as like a jovial moment, then hey man, it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck. But you can choose to look at it from a good perspective or a bad perspective. Like, I wish I was. I get over in the morning. Like, that's a great line. I'll share one line with you, if you don't mind, Kyle. When I first met my GP, Jens Foles, in London, he was a great GP. He's moved up to Wales now. But he goes, I'm waiting in the waiting room with my dad, and he goes, is Dan McQueen here? And I go, it's me. I'm getting myself up. I've got a cane and an eye patch. I'm kind of waddling over towards him. And he goes, Dan, I read your file. And my file was kind of two of these, right? Two thick dossiers this big. Because I thought you'd be a wreck. And I paused for a minute, and I go, Jens, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But like that little line, man, just showcased the relationship we had, that was like a person first and a patient second. And that's what I tell doctors now, is like, that relationship was gold dust. Like that little, mind you, like I like it because it's a witty line that I said, and I can share it again and showcase how witty and brilliant I am. But it kind of showcases the relationship we had, was just kind of this lighthearted joking about this dark situation. Like, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But like, you can choose to look at it that way, or you know what, this is a real crappy situation. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is crappy, but like, what good is that going to do by like reinstilling that and reinforcing that all the time? Like, turn down the suck a little bit, I say.
Yeah, whenever I encounter somebody else that's on a cane, like me, or in a wheelchair, when I have to be in a wheelchair, I always ask them if they want to race, and they usually giggle about that. You
It's
gotta
good. Like, it's good to have that lighthearted
gotta laugh.
and stuff.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
walked for a cane with a while as well, Kyle, in London, because I was walking. I wasn't walking for a while, and I got back to the cane. The way I got off the cane was I came back to Vancouver one time, and I forgot the cane in London. I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. And I was in Vancouver 2 weeks. I didn't have the cane to use it once in Vancouver, and I managed just fine, so I retired the cane. And I was like, oh, I don't need the cane anymore. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. That's great. But I used it for years. And
Yeah.
mind you, I probably used it a little bit too, to like, I think I got a free transit pass out of it as well. But I needed to walk around. Like, I couldn't couldn't walk without this, right? Like it was quite a part of me. When I moved back from London, I left it on the sidewalk as like a gift to the neighborhood, as like to get rid of some of my stuff. And it got picked up because it's a good, dignified looking cane, man. It was a very nice looking cane.
So what's next that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, great question, Kyle. I think that for me, speaking now is a big part of my vibe, and well, it's what I'm trying to do full time as a gig. And I think for me this year, I want to do a TEDx talk.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I've got a TEDx talk ready to go. I'm kind of identifying places where I could potentially hold it and apply there. That's a big goal for me. Um, I'm speaking at a brain injury conference later this year in Canada in April, I believe. But I'm landing gigs and speaking as much as I can. I spoke at a high school last week, tightening up my talk track and just trying to get things going and share some perspective, man. Because like I feel like I've got some good experience to share, and the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Mine just happens to be this side of the spectrum. But if I can show you what I've been through and tell you, hey man, I navigated this by following these steps, maybe that works for you. Maybe not, but maybe it does. So speaking is big for me now. TEDx talk, continually crushing the speaking stuff, and just getting my body too. Like exercise is quite big for me. I'm swimming 3 times a week now, gymming 4 times a week. That's not probably sustainable long term, but right now it feels pretty good.
Yeah, I hear you. You do what you can while you can.
Exactly.
Mm,
That's a good point to bring up. Like it's not always gonna be possible to do that, but I do it when I can because who knows, right?
yeah. Well, I'm enjoying using my cane right now because I don't know how long it's going to be before I have to use a wheelchair full time. So, but why worry about that now? Yeah, do
Why
what I
worry about
can
that
now.
now? But it's like, you could be woes me about the whole thing. Like, well, eventually I'm gonna be in the wheelchair. May as well go now. Like, no, man, like that's the wrong way to look at shit. Like, you're not there
Yeah.
yet. It's like I could be in the ground tomorrow, but I'm not. It's like, why worry about this stuff?
Yeah. And besides, who knows what kind of medical miracle could happen around the corner? They might be able to do something for me and I'll be walking like normal again.
Exactly. Well, pretty remarkable. My dad interviewed this guy from Canada called Trevor Green. He was an Afghanistan veteran, but it's famous because he took off his helmet in like in a ceremonial service, and
Mhm.
he got attacked by a guy with an axe.
Oh,
He didn't die, but he lost the use of his legs, and he was clinging to life, and he had to battle back from this. But he opened up a legion, like a first of its kind legion in Surrey, BC, last month, where it's like low income, or like not low income, but like first responder housing in
mhm.
Vancouver, which is quite expensive, and state of the art rehab and rehabilitation for first responders and service members. And it's a phenomenal project. But that guy was not able to walk, and now he's walking using an exoskeleton. He's in a wheelchair most of the time, but they're trying to ramp this exoskeleton up, and it's phenomenal to watch the progress and just the fight in him and the drive. And now he's got a family, and this Legion's a huge project, and it's something that certainly these Legions are like an aging out demographic in a way, but this has kind of brought new life back into Legion vibe. It's a big case study to see how it works for potential new spots in Canada as well, which is quite exciting. So that was last month, and I believe it was a Surrey Legion, and the name's Trevor Green, the serviceman who started this project. So it's quite cool to see. I'm actually going to go down to the brain injured area in Surrey later this month to try and get some tests done and see how my brain's going. No real issues, just to kind of see how I'm doing and see the health of my brain is, because I can do some pretty wild stuff. But it's like I'm never going to be fixed from the brain injury, if that makes sense. Like I can always improve, but it's always ongoing. So every day I wake up and it's like I do that routine that I mentioned, and I also have to meditate during the day to kind of get the battery back up to 75%. I
Yeah.
describe like my batteries at 75% and I can never go higher. But every second drains it from 75. Below 50, I'm unpleasant. Below 40, I'm a bit of a prick. Got to get back up to 75, but only ever as far as 75. And then it drains immediately.
Mm,
I got to manage that battery as best I can to like be my best self, if that makes sense. And that's taken a lot of trial and error. Like I've buggered up a few times and try to do too much. I'm exhausted and I'll say something that's like not pleasant, or I'll do something that I regret later in the day. I'm like, oh, I was tired. I shouldn't have done that. But only by failing do I realize where the edge of the boundaries is, and I can understand how to navigate and plan for this in a way that's thoughtful and practical for my vibe.
Well, I also keep in mind that there's someone out there a lot worse off than I am. You're going to encounter people that have gone through 10, maybe 10, 100 times worse than what you have. So be thankful for what you do have. And don't look at what you don't have. I think that's a problem with a lot of folks today is they sit and they worry about, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. And not doesn't necessarily have to be about health. I mean, they think, oh, I don't have the $100,000 car that my neighbor has, or the 3-story home that they have, or the giant screen television. But what do you have?
Yeah.
I got a roof over my head. I got electricity and running water. What about somebody in a foreign country that doesn't even have a roof over their head, or they're living in terrible conditions?
Well, they say
Things
like
could be
this is a great
worse.
quote that I love. The sick man wants one thing. The healthy man wants 1,000 things. The sick man wants one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on what is it you actually want. Like I just want to be better. Everything else in my
Exactly.
life is not important now. Just get better. I don't need that hot whip, the new house, the rain, all that stuff. Like I want to just be better now. But also, like I remember going through my injury, um, and I've got double vision now, so I still have that from the brain injury, and my eye drags a little bit sometimes when I look in the mirror, and I get a bit upset from this. But as soon as I get upset, I remind myself, "Hey, Dan, you can walk now.
Yeah.
You weren't able to walk before, but you can walk now, bud." So
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, the eye dragging a little bit, you can still see out of it, but it just drags a little bit. But you can walk now, bud. So like, that's not fair to say because there can be various things that happen to you that aren't fair. But like, hey man, it's not fair. It's not. You're right. It's not fair. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. Like to navigate this and to think your way through this. So it's like be grateful for what you do have, not what you don't have. That's a very good point.
Do the doctors expect things to get really worse for you, or are they optimistic that you're just going to keep improving?
Well, I had surgery in the eyes 2 months ago to try and
Mm-hmm.
correct the double vision. It's made the vision a lot better now. My double vision's kind of like the vision's kind of like one and then two.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make it like this, and then hopefully it goes like this, and then one vision. It's made it a lot better now. I can move my eye a lot more now than the past. Hasn't resolved the double vision, but we only did the right eye. So now we're gonna try the left eye in a few months' time. Uh Optimistic, I don't know, but it's made it a lot better. I'm gonna keep trying. That's the thing here is you gotta keep trying. Like
Yeah.
don't stop until you throw sand over top of me. Like I'm not gonna stop. And
With that.
why stop? Like I'm not gonna settle for this. Like I'm gonna try this out now because if it can fix it now, why not try? They can't fix it, then fine. I know the limitations, but I'm gonna push that limitation if that makes sense.
Now, how far do you travel to just do your speaking, or you just kind of try to stay in a certain part of the world?
Most of it's remote, to be honest now, but I'm in Vancouver. I won't travel much further than that just yet. But unless you want to pay me to come travel to you, like
Mm.
Austin, Texas could be a cool vibe. But yeah, I try to keep it like I'm really managing my battery quite a lot now and doing that. But I'm gonna look to start expanding out to start traveling around for some speaking gigs. But it's like I'll be very conservative with how I approach that because I got to be mindful of the battery now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do so?
Yeah, the best way is mcqueendan.com. That's going to be the best way to get in touch with me. I'm McQueen Dan across all the socials, Twitter, Instagram are the main ones. I also got a YouTube channel, McQueen Dan, as well, but mcqueendan.com is probably the best way to go about that. You can drop a note there and we can get in touch and chat about speaking opportunities.
Well, I want to share all those links in the description so it'd be easy for folks to find you.
Appreciate that, Kyle. Thank you very much, man.
Oh yeah, of course. I appreciate you spending your time with me today, and hopefully you have inspired someone out there to keep going, to have a better mindset in life.
Yeah, one thing I can do to help you turn down the suck in life, I'm all for that, and let's keep going, man. Like it does get easier. It may not seem like it does, but it does get easier. Like I'm telling you that from experience.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I also appreciate you folks out there. If you are new to this channel, well, thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, I thank y'all because you make it possible for me to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network